Do you find yourself thinking the same thoughts over and over again, stuck in a prison of your own mind? Well, you are not alone, and this is not a you problem, and neither is it a personality trait. This is something most human beings struggle with because this is how the default state of an untrained mind is. Welcome to Deep Conversations. Today, we are going to understand how our mind works, or rather, how our mind traps us into overthinking, and why most of the things that we do to overcome overthinking are actually making it worse. Let's dive in. First, we look at what thoughts really are, how we get entangled with them, and that leads to overthinking. Then, we look at the traps of the mind, emotions and triggers which act as magnets for overthinking. If you understand this, with awareness, you can cut down on majority of overthinking. And finally, we look at few strategies on how we can think less, do more, and in general, just live better. Thoughts are like clouds in the sky. They appear and disappear in our consciousness. When we get too attached to the clouds, when we get too attached to the thoughts, we forget that we are the sky. And that is when entanglement happens. And this entanglement leads to worry, anxiety, and overthinking. This simple example from Osho shows how our mind traps us into overthinking. Imagine a person sitting by the road and a black car passes by, and his mind goes, a black car. I wish I had this. Only if my boss promoted me last cycle. Why does he hate me? He never takes my side. Oh, maybe I should leave this job. But the job market is so bad. And before you know it, you are caught in the web of your own thoughts. Now imagine a monk-like person sitting by the roadside and the same black car passes by. And the mind goes, a black car. So nice. That's it. No story, no drama, no mental spiral. This is the difference. The events remain the same, only the relationship with thought changes. Have you noticed how the mind barely pauses over positive thoughts and obsesses over negative thoughts? When we like someone, the mind would often go, "What a nice friend," and move on. But when we don't like someone, it would endlessly keep playing stories around that person. Why is this person like that? Why don't they ever appreciate me? Why don't they return my calls? And we get obsessed with that person. This is the nature of the mind. It only cares about thinking. It doesn't care whether that thinking causes happiness or sadness, peace or chaos. It's like a hungry dog. It will eat whatever it gets. Fear, anxiety, worry, these are the food for thoughts. It ensures that the mind can keep on thinking and thinking. And this is the biggest trap of the mind. Understanding these traps can help us avoid unnecessary overthinking and stress. The mind suffers the most when it gets caught in endless regret over the past. There's a famous Zen story on how the mind gets trapped in past anger and regret. Once, two monks are walking in a forest and they come across a river. A young woman comes by and asks for help to be carried across the river. The old monk hesitates and remembers his vow of celibacy. The young man doesn't think much. He carries the woman, crosses the river, and puts her down. And both the monks continue walking. The older monk is silent on the outside but fuming inside. And when they are about to reach the ashram, he cannot control anymore. He looks at the young man and shouts, "Young man, you shouldn't have carried that woman across the river. We are celibates." The young man looks calmly at the old monk, smiles and says, "Sir, I carried the woman across the river. You are still carrying her." The event ended at the river. The suffering continued in the mind. The mind creates anxiety by projecting a future that doesn't exist. Osho shares a funny story. Once, a man is traveling in a train. He looks at an old man sitting next to him and asks for the time. The old man doesn't reply. The guy asks for the time 3 times but doesn't get a reply. He starts getting angry and frustrated. He asks the old man, "Sir, I've been asking you time. You clearly hear me. Why don't you reply?" The old man says, "I can tell you the time now. Then trying to be nice, you'll ask me where do I live. I'll tell you my neighborhood. Maybe it turns out you live in the same neighborhood. Then maybe you want to come to my house and have tea. I have a young daughter. Maybe she likes you and falls in love with you and wants to marry you." And young man, "I cannot marry my daughter to someone who doesn't even have a watch." You see, the mind projects endless stories that would never happen and creates worry and anxiety. We overthink most when we think that thinking a bit more will give us a better answer or will give us clarity. This again is a mind trap. Thinking more doesn't bring anything new. You must have noticed that when it comes to difficult decisions, it triggers endless thinking. We do a lot of pros and cons, look at endless data, talk to a lot of people, but we cannot come to close a decision. I had a friend once who called me like 10 times to choose between 2 job offers. And you know what happened? Till the very end, till the final day, he could not come to a conclusion. Why? Because thinking more doesn't solve anything. On the contrary, it confuses your mind, makes you scared of taking any particular decision. So what can we do? Sometimes it's better to let the problem go and let the solution come to you on its own. A calm, relaxed mind often thinks better than a mind which is in a perpetual state of problem solving. Let's summarize these insights into some takeaways that can help us overcome this challenge of overthinking. This may sound strange, but the mind is not your friend. It just wants to think. It doesn't care whether it brings peace or chaos. When you truly understand it, you naturally take a step back and stop letting the mind run the show. You start to make use of it more consciously. The mind is like a naughty child. It starts behaving well if observed closely. Be a witness to your own thoughts. Not every thought deserves your attention. Thoughts are not personal. You owe no responsibility to entertain them. Let them come and go. Be a detached observer of your thoughts, and slowly you'll find that these thoughts, which right now occupy a major chunk of the mind, they start loosening their grip if you develop a witness which is different than the thoughts. The more you create a distance between thoughts and yourself, the more easy to let them go. Witnessing alone loosens the grip of these thoughts. Overthinking often feels like problem solving, but it is often the fear of action disguised as thinking. Thinking feels safer than action, but it's a mind trap that leads to analysis paralysis. You don't need clarity to begin. Clarity often comes after you begin. Thinking traps energy. Action releases it. That's why if you find yourself in an endless loop of anxiety, worry, or overthinking, the best way to come out of it is to do something physical with the body. To go for a run, to meditate, to take some small action. Any small action, movement, work, a simple task breaks the mental loop. When the mind feels stuck, the body can lead the way. I'll end this with my favorite Zen saying on this topic. Let thoughts come and go. Don't serve them tea. I hope some of these insights and stories will act as a reminder to you when you find yourself overthinking next. If you like this, subscribe to our channel and share with others. Let me know in the comment section your experience with overthinking. I'll see you in the next video.